Hi, I'm Liz Whiteacre, and we're going to talk about the importance of feedback and revision. In our course this week, our objectives are to demonstrate your understanding of the revision process by revising your fairy tale, participating in Workshop 1, where you will demonstrate an awareness of workshop etiquette, and practicing and providing constructive feedback, both orally and through written notes on peers' fairy tales and workshop. The goals of revision when you're approaching a piece of creative writing are very similar to the same goals that you have for your academic writing, your professional writing, your personal writing. When we are creating something that we are going to share with other people, we want to make sure that we're sending a clear message. People understand what we're saying. We also want to engage our audience. We want people to read through what we've written without stopping, get to the end and say, oh, I've got to tell fill in the blank, right? Whatever person comes to mind first, that they have to read this. Or follow up and check out other things that you've done. And we also want to make sure that we are presenting ourselves professionally. There are a lot of different methods you can use when you're revising, for example, your story this week. Here are a couple that I use, maybe not all the time together, but in different situations. So one thing I'll do is read a piece backwards. This can be really helpful because when I've written something, a lot of times when I'm going through and editing my own work, I am anticipating what should come next. And it's easy for me to miss, say, a hominin, or I think that I've clearly gone from point A to point B, but really I've gone from point A to point C and skipped a part. It's in my head, but it's not on the page. So if I start with the last paragraph or the last line of the essay, the poem, the story, the report, the email, the big academic research paper that I've written, and work my way through backwards, my brain can't anticipate what it knows should come next. And so I'm really looking at what is there on the page. If you want to go so far as going sentence by sentence, you can if you're taking a close look just at grammar. But if you're thinking about the thoughts, you might say, well, does this paragraph, is this thought complete on its own? And then is there a connection to the next thing I come across? So that can be helpful to you if you're like me and you sometimes have trouble catching things that seem glaringly obvious later on when you share it with people. You can also apply some of the different things we've learned about analysis to your own writing. So we learned from Skypack about using Freytag's pyramid, the hero's journey, Vonnegut's plotting method. We can take those and apply it to the story that we've written and look at it from more of a reader's perspective using those same critical reading and thinking skills that we would when we are analyzing literature ourselves. And that can help shift our perspectives a little bit and introduce ideas or perhaps help us catch things that aren't quite resolved or don't quite make sense before we share our work with a reader. We can also participate in revision prompts. As a poet, I love doing this all the time because it serves as a proof for my hypothesis. If I've written a poem that I think is working pretty well, and I change it from past tense to present tense, or I change the point of view from first person to third person, right? If those little changes significantly change the piece and I think, oh, no, that's not helping at all, I want to go back to the original, then I might be pretty confident that my original is sending that clear message, engaging my audience, and helping them understand what it is I'm trying to express in my poem. If I make some changes like that, and I think, oh, whoa, okay, I think I might kind of like this better, then I might find myself in a situation where there's still some tinkering that could be done. There is some revisioning that could be done with that piece. And it helps me be more flexible with trying things out. It can be really hard to spend a lot of time to get 5 words, 100 words, 5,000 words on the page, and then suddenly make a decision that makes you remove 50% of that content and build fresh. That is scary, right? Because you know how much hard work went into the other thing. But it is important to think about trying to do your best to communicate your vision to other people. And sometimes that means extensive revisioning or reworking or revising, sometimes even over the period of many years. And other times it might mean just a surface level cleanup. Maybe it's really ready to go and you're moving on to that next stage on the screen, copy editing or proofreading. Copy editing is an earlier stage where you are catching more errors. You're looking at grammar, you're looking at mechanics, you're looking at consistency of style. You're also thinking about, at that point, structure. You might be thinking about, oh, we jump from here to here, or suddenly the character's wearing a purple shirt and in the last scene it was a white shirt. Did that person change clothes, right? Looking for those types of inconsistencies. And proofreading would be looking at what you feel is the last draft and very carefully reading it over to make sure it's polished, there aren't any little things that linger. So that would be that last stage before you share it with someone or you send it out for publication to a magazine like our own UND's Etchings. Another thing that can sometimes be helpful is what writers often call the closed drawer strategy. This means that you set your piece aside for a little while before coming back to it and spending more time revising it, especially if you're looking at it and you think, oh, this isn't where I want it to be, but I just don't know what to do to get it there. When you're in a class like this one, we don't have a lot of time to practice the closed door strategy because we are on a rapid deadline, a pace, which is good because you're going to get a lot of stuff written. You may find that the time between a workshop and putting together your e-portfolio is enough time for you to get a new perspective and look at that piece with a little bit of distance. But sometimes it also takes longer in that. So you might create your e-portfolio for this class and then return to it next term or the following year and spend some time reshaping your work. And finally, soliciting feedback, sharing your work in early stages with readers to get their point of view, get their experience, hear from them what they are thinking your message is and seeing how clear it is can be really helpful before you call something quote unquote done, right? That's up for debate, the doneness of things. People feel differently about that. I'll look at stuff I wrote 20 years ago and there's still things that I'd like to revise. So I'm in that camp. But going to someone that you trust and having one person take a look. When you have the privilege of being in a community like this class and you have the opportunity to participate in workshops, that can be a great way to have other writers look at your work and give feedback. But taking some time to get reader responses can help you make sure that your work is ready to share with a wider audience. I included this picture on the slide because I think it's important to remember that we call workshop because we are trying our best to use all of the tools available to us as writers to create something that is received kind of like a gift, right? You've worked really hard, you've made something you hope is very beautiful and you're giving it to a reader, and we hope that they receive that and have a great experience and share it with others. We have a lot of different tools. You are going to be exploring those tools in this class and applying different types of strategies and techniques throughout the different genres as you write different pieces. It's also important to consider that other writers in this course are coming with different tools that they have used in the past. They have different strength. And so when they are reading your work and responding, they might be making valuable suggestions, things that you didn't think about or didn't notice or didn't consider before. So I hope that you approach workshop as a teaching experience, as a learning experience. This is your chance to be a fly on the wall, if you will, and hear what other readers are thinking about your work. This is not a place where we are taking our work to get fixed, right? It's not like going in for an oil change and we're expecting other people just to take care of things for us. And it's also not a place where we're thinking, oh, thumbs up, thumbs down, you're getting voted off the island. It's also not that kind of proof whether or not people like it or they don't. It is really a place to work together as writers and readers to produce something that people are going to respond to and enjoy. Or maybe not even enjoy, but respond to. People read things and get angry or upset or burst out into tears. And those are all great responses too, right? When we get started, there's some things I'd like you to keep in mind. This might be your very first workshop. It's very similar to peer review you might have done in past composition courses and other classes. But make sure that you give the work and the writer your full attention in workshop. This means giving yourself time to sit down and read the story this workshop, and we'll be looking at stories and poems and essays in later workshops, right? Have a quiet space where you're not going to be interrupted constantly, right? Maybe turn down the music and not watch TV at the same time and have your text dinging and trying to be responding to those people or making dinner or getting changed for work, where you're constantly leaving the story and your attention. The reason why that's important is that if you don't sit down and focus and read it in one setting, you might miss something important, right? Or you might not receive the full impact of what the writer has accomplished if you're kind of constantly right, turning away from the screen. So that's the first thing. Look at your schedule for the coming week. We are all posting our stuff on Tuesday. Friday night is the deadline for the workshop. So break it up. You have 2 partners to 3 partners that you're working with. You might say, okay, today I'm going to work on this. Today I'm going to work on this. Friday I'm going to wrap it up, and I'm going to wait and respond to the feedback that I'm getting from other people. All of you will be sharing your fairy tale, your story, with additional information at the end, and we'll talk about that more specifically, but you'll present your work with a writer's statement that gives your readers and workshop a little bit of context about your piece. It's a place for you to share why you wrote it and what you're proud of and what kind of feedback you're hoping to get. As the reader, before you kind of go through the file, you can decide if that's something you'd like to read first and then read the story, or you might read the story, see what the person has to say, and then go back and record your feedback in the second read. Personally, that's something that I like to do because sometimes I'll catch things before I read the statement that I might not have if I knew what the writer's intention was at the start. You'll want to make sure to provide feedback on your reader experience. You are not here to catch every grammar mistake as a reader. You don't need to know every single reference, right? But you do come to this class with a bunch of experience as a reader, watcher of film, listener of songs, right? You've consumed a lot. And you do know what's something that keeps your attention, what's something that confuses you, what's something that just seems absolutely amazing. And that's what we're recording. Your job is not to quote unquote fix something again, but your job is to let the writer know, this is what I felt. These are the questions I had. These were the cool things I thought of while I was reading your piece. And then it's on the writer to take that feedback from you and think about how the person would like to shape their piece based on that. Recording your feedback on the page, right? So going into the Word file, turning on track changes, and making line edits as you go. Our textbook is going to talk about a lot of different ways to revise, a lot of different ways to provide feedback, and how to use word track changes if you've not done that before. But that lets you add a little comma or make a little suggestion. And it also gives you that bubble feature to be able to provide comments. So you can point to the exact place in the paragraph where you're wondering about that change in shirt colors. Is that intentional? Does it, is it supposed to signal something? Or maybe the writers stopped, they wrote the first half on Monday and finished the second half on Tuesday, and they forgot what color shirt it was. You can make that note right there in the text. So asking questions can be really helpful, pointing out cool things. Oh, it would be great if this person did this, or how come this person didn't do that, right? And you're recording that experience of what's going on in your head as you're reading the piece. After you're all done, I will ask you to record, just like we're doing in the reader responses for our textbook, a short 1 to 2 video for each author. And that is kind of more of a global, okay, I've read your piece, I've thought about it, and this is where I'm at as a reader. You'll be posting that feedback to the forum. It's a small group of just you and your partners where you'll be sharing your work. I'll be checking in there too. And I'm asking that when you receive the feedback, you read it, you watch the videos, you think about it, and you respond to each person at least once. If the conversation continues, feel free. You can, discuss as much as you'd like in that safe place. But I recommend you thank them for their time and energy and spirit of helpfulness, if that's the case. And then think about one question you have for that person. It could be asking them to clarify a comment that they made. It could be thinking about a suggestion they make and say, well, what do you think if I did this? Maybe you didn't title your story and nobody mentioned that. And you're like, oh, I was hoping people would say something. You can follow up and ask for additional information if your readers didn't notice something or didn't have an opinion on something. So everybody will post one thing to the readers, and then it's on you to read what your readers have said and follow up as a writer as well. And then, as always, as you have done all term, we want to make sure that we're respectful and productive rather than saying, hey, that stinks. It hurts, and I don't know what to do with that. Right? I wasn't even using sensory detail in that moment of time, right? Make sure that you're specific. Feel free to qualify things. You can say, well, I think, or I feel, or my experience, this is where I'm coming from. And if you see something that rubs you the wrong way, you might say, generally, this is how I respond to these sorts of things. And in this moment, I'm wondering this. Or you could pose it as a question. The response that this character is making in this dialogue surprises me. It seems really aggressive, and I didn't realize they were arguing until this moment, right? Maybe something could happen before to give me a tip off on that. So feel free, to write a complete sentence to kind of say, well, in your head, you might be thinking this stinks, but try to figure out why. What is it that you're not responding to as a reader? And let the writer know that. Give them the opportunity in the next draft to address the concerns or questions you have, and make sure to point out what is awesome so that they don't mess around with it in revision and take all those really cool parts away. So more specifically, step 1 in workshop, by Tuesday, you are going to revise and proofread your fairy tale. Again, you can implement the strategies that we learn about in SkyPack. Use what strategies have worked for you in the past. It's up to you how you'd like to do that. But make sure that your fairy tale's in a Word document formatted in MLA. Address all those little red and blue squigglies. You don't want your peer review workshop partners focusing in on those, right? And then at the bottom of the file, you're going to answer 4 questions. Why did you write this story? What are you most proud of? What are you unsure about? And what are you still planning to accomplish with your story that maybe you didn't have a chance to do at this point in time? Post your file to your small group by deadline. So that way everybody in your group and myself has access to your Word file. If you don't have Microsoft Word, you can get it for free from UIndy. Check the resources information resources folder in ACE for more information on that, or get in touch with me right away so we can talk about how you can participate using track changes and getting your partners that feedback. Once you've posted Tuesday, you can even peek. If you see other stuff there, you're welcome to get started earlier than that. You will want to download your two partners' Word files. Save them to your computer. Make sure you save them with meaningful titles so that you know whose is whose, which is which, and your partners know you're the one providing feedback. Here I have a screenshot from an example. This was shared by Sam and Kylie. Both of them agreed to present this rough draft and commentary to you. If you'd like to see the whole file with all of the poems that Kylie commented on, they are in the resources folder underneath workshop. You can check it out. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on here. This is what track changes looks like. Kylie is the only person who made comments in this draft. So you'll see over on the side her name listed. You'll also see those little dots go across to where she's making a comment or where she did something in the text of the poem. So that way we make sure to turn on track changes so the author knows, okay, this is where the readers have gone in and done stuff. So in that first line of the poem, we can see pretty clearly that Kylie would like to see a little b there for baby in those two repetitions. And she would like to see a comma after the word like, right, to create a non-essential element with the word really. And then her commentary then is over on the right-hand margin. We have different kinds of feedback. We have macro level and micro level feedback. And just like the name suggests, macro level feedback is addressing the bigger issues, content issues, maybe the shape and the form of the poem. And micro level would be the little things, word choices, grammar choices. So we see a nice blend of both here as Kylie's reading through the poem and she's thinking about, oh, well, if I had a comma here, then that would help my brain move, right? Miserable pregnant woman, miserable pregnant. Okay, that helps me realize that I have two adjectives there. So you're welcome to do both as you read. We also have two different kinds of commenting and track changes, the line edits, and so we see that in the change of the capital B to the lower b in the first line. That's going to highlight. Kylie has her color set to blue, but it might appear red in your screen or purple or green. And then also the comments, and those are those bubbles. And in SkyPack, there's a great training video, it's very short, that shows you how to turn on track changes, how to make a line edit, and also how to make a comment if this is something that you've not done before. And definitely get in touch with me in advance of the deadline so I can help you out if you need any help. And then the last thing that we'll be doing in preparation for sharing our feedback is a video response. The next step is making sure that you share your feedback with your partners by posting your files and URL by the deadline back to your group forum. So we're only using the forum to exchange materials. And the reason why we're doing this is because the assignment page in ACE is private between you and me. So if you post anything to the assignments page, your partners will not have access to those files and the URLs. The file you give them will have all of those written notes that let them know what your reader experience was. And the video that you create and post to YouTube is going to share with them what are two things that you felt were really strong, you really appreciated about the story, and what are two things that you hope the writer might address in revision after workshop so that it is the best, strongest, most awesomest piece ever, right? So make sure that you post those back. Then take a look at those files and videos that you have received from your two partners. Make that post that says, hey, thanks for your feedback. And here are some questions I have. And then respond to the people who've asked you questions about your feedback, and let them know what you're thinking. At the end of the workshop on Friday night, you will be able to take all of that information that you've gotten and use it to revise your fairy tale. So that way, as you're preparing for your e-portfolio at the end of the term, it is awesome and ready to share with the world. Looking ahead, again, this week we have our this video and then our SkyPack module, as well as the revised fairy tale with the writer's statement that's posted to your forum, your workshop group. Look for your name in the subject line. And then between Tuesday and Friday, we're going through that workshop 1 process. If you have any questions during before workshop, don't hesitate to reach out to me or your team. You can contact all of us via the messages tool in ACE. I can't wait to see the feedback that you provide, and I am also really excited for you. It is such a privilege and wonderful opportunity to be able to read peers' work and see what they're doing and the creative, amazing things. And it can also inspire us and give us some ideas for how we might want to shape our work in the future. Take care and keep in touch.